Hey everybody, welcome back. Today's album review is about Cause and Effect's 1994 album, Trip. This is I want to say this is more like their second album. Their first album was was put out in 1990, and then they sort of put out most of the same songs again on the second album. I think it was called Another Minute. And, so I kind of consider this their second album. They only had one more album after this. Um, but for only having like three albums, I think the Cause and Effect are really underrated. Um, and this album is really strong. In 1994, it was an interesting time because dance music was getting popular, techno and things like that. And this album is a really good example of if you guys like Jesus Jones or you remember EMF or there's like bands that sort of did a sort of alternative rock sort of and put some electronic music into it and sort of made it dancey. You could easily set. Can I easily compare like Cause and Effect to like Camouflage? They remind me a lot of Camouflage. Maybe a little bit like Depeche Mode. But they also have this album also kind of has a little bit of some sort of rock in there a little bit, and then also some ballads. The ballads are kind of like alternative. So they kind of remind me of a band that sort of is evolving a little bit more, kind of blending like rock and electronic music a little bit. They kind of have that sound. They're not doing it to the extent of like Songs of Faith and Devotion of Depeche Mode, which was right around this time. But really feel like Cause and Effect are really underrated, and it's kind of a sad situation of, in 1992, one of the two members um, had an asthma attack on stage and went backstage and unfortunately died of a heart attack, and which was really sad. And then which was just before this album in 1992, and then a couple of the producers or engineers that were helping out kind of joined the band, and then they came out with this album. And really is a lot of people don't. I haven't heard necessarily the last album in 1997. Um, but considering they only have two or three albums, there's a lot of good music on two or three albums. I really urge you guys, if you guys like synth pop and new wave music and stuff, like a good mix of rock and electronic music, and check out Cause and Effect. I think you'll really like them. So I'm going to review their album Trip from 1994. Got a lot of notes on this album. First track is It's Over Now. Really good programmed groove, rhythm, sung well. He definitely sounds like the singer of Camouflage when he does the verses and into the choruses. His tone of his voice is just a little higher than the guy from Camouflage. Camouflage is a little bit, maybe has a little bit deeper German voice, but he can hit some high notes, but not like um, I think his name is Mark Rowe can on Cause and Effect. So he has a little bit more range to his voice than the guy from Camouflage, but I equally like both, but they really remind me of each other. Um, Cause and Effect sort of have like a UK American sound more so than Camouflage is kind of like a German UK sound or a German sort of take on synth pop because they're from Germany. But Cause and Effect are a little bit more American, a little bit more crossover. Cause and Effect had a few, tracks. I think two other tracks hit the top 40. Um, they were close to being a bigger band. Especially if they would have got a little bit more play in like 91, 92, like when people were playing EMF and Jesus Jones and things like that. You had a band like Cause and Effect who were so much better than Jesus Jones and EMF in my opinion. Um, And their albums, you listen to their albums, they're complete albums. This is a really good album compared. I listened to Jesus Jones' album all the way through, and they don't have the they aren't as well balanced song wise, talented wise, to do the album that this album is, or their first album. It's Over Now is really good track, aged really well considering too. The moody bridge is nice. It's a cool song. I got 3 stars. Inside Out is another good program, good electronic dance song. Kind of Depeche Mode sounding. Lots of good electronic sounds. I got that one even better at 3.25 stars. And then you have Alone, which is a nice melody. It's a little bit more of a ballad. Actually adds an acid line underneath it, which is cool. There's a couple tracks on here that kind of get into a little bit more of a techno sound, but even more so like a acid line, which is interesting. Um, yeah, I put the acid sounds into a ballad is kind of different. It can be a little corny, but it's a good song, good harmonies, and good melody. At 3 stars, it's a very good song for sure. Then my favorite song on the album, so right in away, 4 excellent songs, or really good songs for sure. Track 4 is my favorite in Shakespeare's Garden. This one adds a nice atmosphere. Melody is good. The beat's really cool. Verses and the chorus. The chorus melody I feel like is awesome. The last chorus adds some really cool sounds, a higher melody, some double hits on the beats, some nice zaps. Um, the beat comes back in, fade out. I mean, everything about this track is really good. It's it's a really well done song. I would compare this to like something like I don't know, maybe like I'm trying to think of like what's a little bit less produced, like Depeche Mode song. It kind of sounds, it has that sort of almost like a Violator sound, but maybe not as dark as that. Um, but it's just a really good track. It's maybe compared to like Strange Love, maybe on that level. Almost to that level of Strange Love. Like I like Strange Love better, but it's kind of like almost on that edge of that kind of sound and that 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 strong of a track. I got it 4 stars. It's an excellent track. Um, Track 5, You Are the One. It's not bad. Maybe a little Depeche Mode like as well on this one. 2 stars. It's not bad. Good track. Soul Search, track number 6. This is my least liked song on the album. It's a decent try at sort of an indie rock and electronic blend, and it sort of adds a ravey sound as well. It's kind of mixing a lot of stuff, and it does it pretty well. I can't say it's a good track, but it's close. I got it 1.75 stars. Stone Girl, it's a good chorus, some nice sounds. It's pretty good, nice moody one. I got 2.25 stars. And then She Said, it's a really nice moody piano melody. Everything is really well done in this song. Um, it's sung really nicely too. This could easily have been like sort of like an adult contemporary hit. You know, 3 stars. She Said. Sinking too. I feel like that could be kind of a alternate, kind of a adult country, adult country, an adult, pop song that was a hit. Sinking, strong. It's really good vocals, lyrics. I got it 4 stars. It's just really catchy song. It'll surprise you. It's a really good song. It wasn't a single or anything. Just a really good song. And it's not like necessarily like all the other songs. It's just you can probably it kind of has that feel like they wrote that song and then they sort of did the harmonies and the melody of it, and it's sort of electronic, but it's a lot more mature sounding than the first half of the CD. The first half of the CD is more like Depeche Mode or something like that, but Sinking is, it's like, I don't know. It's hard to compare it to something. It's, like, well, what's an adult electronic pop song? I don't know. That's early '90s. I don't know. It's just, I don't want to go over the top and say it's like Sting or something like that, but you know what I mean. It's like, I don't know. It's just, it's hard to compare. It's just a really good song, just well written song. It doesn't hit you over the head and great because it's, I don't know, like, it's got a cool beat or a cool melody like a normal, like their normal stuff. It's just a really good song, really good lyrics, really good vocals, harmonizing. It's just such a strong song. I got 4 stars. Just an excellent song. And then the last song, Crash. It's good. It's kind of climactic, but it doesn't really have the depth the other songs really do. And it's really the longest song, so it's the longest song and it's not as catchy. And it ends the album, but it does have a surprisingly good techno trance kind of bridge in it towards the end. Music is pretty good overall. It's not bad. Kind of conflicted on it, to be honest with you, because it's after such a good song. It's after another two good songs really, and then it's the longest song and it doesn't really go anywhere, but the music does kind of go somewhere. It's, I don't know if it's necessarily the best ending song, but it does kind of, um, in some ways, kind of end the album. Maybe just not in the strongest way, but it's a good song. I gave it 2 stars. So the overall good of the album, I have a lot to say about this album because there is a lot to talk about on this album, and it's not a very well known album, unfortunately. But you would think it is from after you heard the album. You would think like this is. I tell you what, Sinking kind of sounds like, reminds me of Tears for Fears. Like, I could hear maybe the song off Sowing Seeds of Love. I'm trying to remember the ballad on that with the girl on it. It sort of has like an adult electronics song like that. Is it the Chains? The one with the chains? It almost sounds like a great song like that, or maybe like "Head Over Heels" by uh, Tears for Fears. Yeah, that is something I did want to mention. That now that I'm surprised I thought about it, but now I was thinking about his voice, it does remind me. I did think about that when I was listening to this album. He does kind of have like a Tears for Fears sound in here. Maybe not as musical and as talented as Tears for Fears, but kind of Sinking and She Said remind me of Tears for Fears songs. If you mix Camouflage and Tears for Fears, you would have cause and effect for sure. That's kind of the mix. I would probably say that's the mix, because there's even a little bit of like Tears for Fears, like Good Night Song, or is it the song off Elemental, um, the Goodbye song. That one kind of reminds me of Cause Effect. I could see that kind of in the same kind of realm. Um, but it's really strong overall. Good dance, electronic, well rounded. Some very good songs and a lot of good secondary songs. A lot of good moments, a lot of good songs. I think Alone and She Said and even and Sinking are really strong, like secondary non-dance songs. So even the good mellow songs are balance out the balance out the more dancey songs well. I think it might surprise you on how good this album is produced and aged. Pretty well rounded too. Again, really strong first half of the album, balanced with some depth on the second side. Highly underrated. I think Robert Rose sings really well. His voice is really underrated as well. It's kind of gentle. Sometimes it's a little powerful. He sings in the pocket really well, which is really nice, which is important for electronic music, in my opinion. that has singing like this. It really needs to be in the pocket, sit nicely, so you can still hear the electronic music, and you can hear the harmonies and the melodies and the rhythm and everything like that. Your voice really has to be fit in there like it's a instrument, fit in there like it's a tone, fit in there like it's a color in a art collage, like the tone and the timbre and the cadence and everything. He really hits. He really sits in the pocket really well. And they're really creative. There's some creative grooves in the album too. If you like the melodies, if you like camouflage, if you like, again, Tears for Fears and Depeche Mode, you really like this album. Martin Phillips produced this, who's a really strong engineer and producer. Bob Ludwig mastered this album, which was I didn't know that till I did the review that he mastered this. I was like, Bob Ludwig mastered this? Like, wow, he's mastered things from like Pink Floyd and stuff like that. And I was like, wow. So I mean, everything really sounds really good on here. I can't say anything sounds dated. It sounds very 1994. It's strong. 47 minutes album too. 10 songs is good length. You get your money's worth for sure. Getting this, getting a used copy like this on a CD, you can probably get it for like $1 or $2. I get a lot of enjoyment for $1 or $2 for out of this album. When I think of the opportunities or what's bad about the album, a couple okay songs. Soul Search, maybe You Are the One, Crash, or two of those are 2 stars, one's under at 1 3/4. But I could easily say those songs are, pretty good songs. You know, Sometimes the chorus can be a little corny on a couple songs. Some I could see some people thinking some of the songs sound the same. I could see that, but not much else. I can't really fault anything else about this producing of the album, the mixing, the engineering, the songs. It's a good album. When I tally up the stars, I got a 28 1/4 stars, so it's 2.82, so really strong there. Right under very good, but so I pushed it up a couple notches up to 70. I think this is a very good album. I excuse me, I feel like I can justify this album saying it's a very good album, and I have it on the low side of very good at a 70 out of 100. Good album, really good album. I I used to originally in 1994 I had this on cassette, and I really liked it, but I never really got around to hearing their first album till maybe about a decade ago when I finally got their first album, and that was really good too. I don't know why it took me so long to get back to hearing their first album, and I like the first two albums so much that I might go get the 1997 album too, just to hear what it's like, and even if there's just a couple songs on there that gives me some more good songs by cause and effect. It's unfortunate that they didn't do more. But considering the pressures of early 1990s, like trying to be popular and techno music and how to use it with synth pop, and this could have easily gone bad and been like they had been like I can't think of like a band that was trying to be like Depeche Mode, or not necessarily saying cause and effect trying to be like Depeche Mode, but in that sort of realm, and faltered. It's just I can't think of them because they probably did falter, but yeah, I can't think of anybody. I'm sure if I sat down and thought about it longer, I could think of a few examples where they weren't successful, but cause and effect, they're successful in making a good album. This probably has a little bit more depth thanks to the second half of the CD than the first album. The first album probably has a few more dancey, catchy songs. Like I can think of like one minute and um, Do You Think You Know Her, and some some really strong dance tracks. Probably a few more dance tracks, but there's also like Farewell to Arms is a really good track. Um, I think the echoing one is one of my favorites, and the one with the world. Let me see if I can remember. Let me see if I can look it up here. Um, New World is. I really like New World and Echoing Green and Farewell to Arms. But then it's got You Think You Know Her, Another Minute. Those are really strong songs. So the first album is equally as good. Probably close to this, but this one has a little bit more depth and maybe a little bit more, maybe maturity. And again, has sort of like an adult sound a little bit more, like a Tears for Fears. So really a good album. 70 out of 100. Really strong album. Can't really fault anything about it. There might be a couple of okay songs and a few songs that sort of sound like each other, but I mean, it's a good album. Really good album. I would really recommend The Trip by Cause and Effect. My favorite three songs on there is Shakespeare's Garden, Sinking, and Inside Out. Yeah, those are my favorite three. Yeah, curious. Have you heard this album? Do you like this album? What would you rate this album out of 100? All right, thanks so much for watching.